All right, good Tuesday afternoon, Animal Humane Society fans. Katie here from the training school, and Mira, come here, baby. Mira's gonna help me demonstrate some door dashing strategies. So for those of you that have dogs that like to bolt out the door or cats that like to run out and explore the neighborhood, I've got a few tips here for you. So the first thing that you're gonna do is set them up for success. Oh, good job, Mira. And that means that you're gonna try and prevent that door dashing as best you can. So baby gates to keep them away from your entry. This is an exercise pen, and it goes in a circle or comes in varying heights. So this is a good one for homes where there's a large opening that a baby gate won't work. I put plumbing insulation on the bottom so that it doesn't hurt my wood floors at home, and then I just kind of stand it up in my house. If you have a particularly boisterous dog, this isn't going to work, but you may be able to make it work for smaller dogs. Good girl. All right, so for cats, something similar. It can be really helpful to have a cat tree or a chair near the entrance to teach them how to station or go to their place, have a greeting place a little bit away from the door, not right next to the door, so that you can come in the house and still get your greeting. They still get the attention they're looking for, but it's not immediately inside the door. So as best you can, when you're coming in the door or when you're leaving, try and avoid a lot of fanfare. And I'm gonna pretend I'm coming in the house, right? So Mira's here to greet me. Yes, oh. All right, so I'm gonna come in the house, I'm gonna be very nonchalant. I might even toss some cookies away from the door. And over time, my pets are gonna learn that if they wait over there, that's where all the food happens. So that's one way to handle it. Another way would be to put a note on your door if you're expecting guests and just have them call or text you, because often the doorbell and the door knocking gets everybody really excited. So that gives you an opportunity to put your dog in a crate, tether them somewhere, put them in a bedroom, basically keep them out of that area. Sit. Good girl. And then from there, once you've got the management in place, then we can teach them what the appropriate behavior is, okay? So after we set them up for success, there's a couple things to try. So for Mira here, hi. Hey, babe. I'm gonna put her leash back on. Mira is a new friend of mine. She is not for adoption. Otherwise, she might go home with me. She belongs to one of our shelter behavior services people. Hi. All right. She doesn't want to play this game, so she's leaning away and saying, I don't really want your hands coming towards my collar, so I'm not going to push her. And essentially what you're going to do with your dog at home is have them on leash. You are inside your house. They're all leashed up. So I'm inside, cat, dog on a leash, and now I'm going to open the door and send my pet outside, right? And then I'm going to close the door. I only want to have about a foot of leash or two out here. And this, you're gonna do this at a time of day when there isn't a whole lot going on outside. It's not very exciting, okay? So it might be right away in the morning or later in the evening after people are done with their walks. So you're gonna close the door and just let them hang out and get bored, kind of look around. If you can see them, that's even better. You can watch their body language. And when you open the door after a few seconds, say, oh my gosh, there you are. I didn't know where you were, and feed them like crazy. So you're gonna have some treats after they get inside and just be feeding them those snacks. And you're gonna do this several times until you notice that they're outside and they start looking back at the door and looking back for the treats. So then at that point, you're gonna open the door. Oh my gosh, that is so good. And you might get to a point where they go out the door and they're sitting and then they just look straight back to you, which is fantastic. And maybe they won't even step out the door because they're getting rewarded in the house, and this is the best place to be. So this is one little strategy you could try. to teach them that being in the house is a better place to be instead of dashing out the door whenever you're trying to leave, people are coming over, etc. Another option is to teach them to go to a mat. So that's what I have on the ground here. And I'll see if Mira wants to play. Mira, touch. Good girl. So if I'm teaching Mira how to go to a place, I'm going to get her on the mat like this. Yes. And then follow up with the treat. And I basically want to get her to understand that her paws on the mat is what I'm looking for. Mira, you want to come play? Good girl. So this is a skill that we teach in our levels classes. We work on it in levels 2 through 5. And it's meant to give your dog a place to go with an expectation that they stay there and relax for a certain amount of time. And we build it up to about 3 minutes with a little bit of distraction. Mira. Come here, Pep. There's a girl. Hi, sweetheart. Do you want to come play? That a girl. So we've got paws on the mat, follow up with a reward, and then I want to get to a point where I can just be next to the mat and Mira decides to step on the mat because that's where she's getting all the food. So that's your first goal. Once she's doing that, you can give it a name. So spot, place, or maybe even where's your bed? Where's your bed, Mira? This is not her usual bed. There you go, sweets. Good girl. So once you get to that point, then you can start to build up a little duration and maybe work around the door. So this I wouldn't have immediately next to the door, maybe within sight, because sometimes it's frustrating for our dogs to be out of sight from us. Same with our cats. Cats tend to like to be up high. So using a cat tree or a shelf, something like that, can be really, really helpful for cats. And you're going to go about teaching them this same thing in the exact same way. So I have a cat that will go up on the cat tree for treats, and then we just work up to the door opening and rewarding her for staying there. All right. I lost my notes. I'm going to grab my notes. Just so I make sure I tell you all the secrets I was going to tell you. You can also work with your pets on desensitizing them to a knock on the door or a doorbell. And you would do that by keeping them further away from the door when you knock, so it makes the knocking more muffled, or the doorbell, so far away from the doorbell so that the doorbell is quieter. If they still get worked up, they can be in any corner of your house and still get worked up. Then the next thing is going to be getting an app on your phone and using a doorbell where you can turn the volume up and down from that app. That works really well for other things too, like sometimes fireworks or the sound of garbage trucks, buses, things like that. So that can be a really helpful tool, that app with the sounds. I don't have a specific one that I use, but I know they're out there. Hi, friend. Where's your bed? Mira says her bed's over there today. Oh, sorry, sweetie. All right. What questions do we have about the door dashing and doorbell desensitization? I love questions. Another good thing to remember is to keep ID tags on your pet. The best way to get them back is with those ID tags. So microchip is only as good as your current information. So make sure if you move, you update your contact info, at least your phone number, so that they can easily reach you if your pet should get out and lose their collar. All right. Let's see if I move this mat a little bit, if that'll be helpful for Mira. Hi, sweetheart. Touch. Again. All right. So for door dashing for dogs, I really like the leash technique. I also really like to teach them the mat work. This is something that's portable and you can bring with in other locations. So patios, or if you're going to a friend's house for dinner, something like that, you can bring the mat with. And once they understand what the expectation is, it becomes a really great tool for relaxing and teaching calm behavior. So this is something that's really great for just teaching settle in young dogs especially, and something to start early. All right, I think I went through my door dashing info in record time.
Yeah, let's get started with some questions. I think we had a few that were submitted.
Yep, we do have a few questions that came in yesterday, so I will get to those. Jane says she has a cat and 2 dogs that dash. One animal will take off and the other somewhat stays near. But with multiple animals, what do you do? And it's going to be pretty similar. This is where a note on your front door can come in really handy. So a note that says, dogs in training, it may take me a minute to get to the door, and that'll give you a minute to put them away, etc. Same with the cat. So it's sometimes just best to close a bedroom door and keep everybody contained so that you can calmly greet your guests and not worry about your animals rushing out. It's important to know that training multiple animals usually requires that you train each one separately before you put them together. Multiple animals together are going to be a distraction. Don't need to tell you that, right? So when we add in more distraction is when your dog or your cat is learning at a little bit higher level. So in the beginning, we want the foundation to be very clear, easy, no distractions. We just want them to understand what we want from them. And then we can add in more distractions. So once you get it down with one animal, it should go a lot smoother with the next, because you'll have done quite a bit of troubleshooting. And what to do about dogs barking out the window as dogs and neighbors walk by, or the postman. I think my favorite way to handle this would be to close the blinds, move the couch, or you could even put wax paper or a film on the window that allows the light through, but doesn't allow the dog to see out very clearly. This is going to let the light in your house, and your dog won't be able to really make out what's going on outside. So that can be a really great way to manage it. So again, setting them up for success while you teach them a better behavior. So outside of the management part, what you're going to do is, see, I just lost my train of thought. Train them for stationing or something else. So you can train them for the mat work here to give them a job to do. You can tell them something separate to do, or ask them to do something else. So interrupt, redirect them. Mira knows a touch, so she'll put her nose on my palm, and that can be a great way to redirect them. So usually we want to interrupt them and make sure they're doing something else for a few seconds before we, try and get any rewards or anything like that. But oftentimes just interrupting them and redirecting them can be a great start. Let's see. We also have a question from Andrea. And let's see. Oh, that was the barking at the people walking by. Okay. Alexandra Ann says, I just got my little guy and he's 7 weeks. What's the first thing I should start teaching or training him? Socialization is critical at this age. So puppies have a sensitive period until they're about 4 to 5 months old. It's not a cut and dry time period, but we find that puppies that don't have a robust socialization tend to have larger fear problems later on in life. So socialization is the process of making sure your puppy is experiencing the world and that it's a good experience. Not simply taking your puppy out and taking them everywhere with you and forcing them to meet people and things like that. That's overwhelming. And I know I wouldn't like that. So not a good strategy for our puppies. We want to make sure that their take-home message is a good one. So bring treats with you, bring toys, keep it short. We want to get your puppies experiencing different surfaces, different sounds, different sights, meeting people, children, etc. So it's a little tricky right now with COVID, but it's important to get out there and be doing some stuff, especially during the nice weather, because when the cold hits, it's going to make it even more complicated for our young puppies. So that is the top thing. I would also recommend getting them comfortable with handling and starting to teach a recall. So handling their feet and their ears, collar, leash, that type of thing, and then teaching them to come when called. So that's where I like to start. How do I get my dog to stop fun policing my cat? The Bungalow Club, Minneapolis. Okay, so if you have a German Shepherd, good luck, first of all. A little dog humor. So if your dog is struggling with your cat's behavior, I think teaching an alternate behavior is probably your best way to go. So you can basically condition your dog to look at the cat and get a treat, do something else, so you can reward at a distance for calm behavior. So at some point, the cat's doing something and the dog is relaxed, and you're going to pay the dog for that. And then you're going to slowly increase the cat's activity or decrease the distance from the cat where it might be more difficult. If your dog at all starts to get agitated, vocalizing, whining, fixating, anything like that, then we've gone too far too fast. And we just want to take it down a notch. So some alternate behaviors, our dogs don't know the rules. We have silly rules as people. So our first challenge is finding that common language and actually teaching them what they need to do before we can ask them to do something. I have another question. How do you introduce foster dogs into your home? From Broadway Jewel. Well, it depends on the makeup of your home. This is something where generally foster animals, you want to keep them separated from your other pets for a period of time. With cats, it's at least 2 weeks. Dogs, you want to get to know your new foster dog and make sure that they're comfortable with other pets in the home. So just having the animal in your home, getting used to the daily routine, when meal times are, when potty times are, when play times are, and being in your home and hearing what's going on, smelling things, kind of getting familiar with the rhythm of your day is going to be really, really helpful. So a gradual introduction outside, usually for dogs, is recommended. You can also, if you have to be indoors for whatever reason, try to have the biggest space you can. There's varying opinions on introducing animals while they're on leash. So, we have to kind of take it case by case, but it's a gradual introduction, and I would recommend keeping your new pet in one part of your house, cats one particular room, dogs maybe upstairs versus downstairs, until they really get comfortable with you and the rhythm of your house. Looks like those are the questions that came in yesterday. So I think we're going to end up taking some questions from Facebook and Instagram. If anyone has questions on the door dashing or any of the other questions, be happy to answer them.
Yeah, we'll just give it a second here.
Sure.
No questions so far.
All right, no questions coming in from Instagram so far.
What would be your recommendation for a dog that can be a little bit shy of people like Mirabelle?
Yeah, a recommendation for dogs that can be a little bit shy of people like Mira. Always give the animal their space. I was reading Mira's body language, and she was very hesitant to come towards me and kind of leaning away. So the worst thing I could have done is push it And I don't want to do that. I want her to stay comfortable. So tossing her treats, taking the cues from her. I'm not going to force an interaction. Yeah, those are probably the top two things. Don't force it, and work on rewarding, or not rewarding, but counter conditioning that behavior. So basically feeding her when strangers are around, as people are walking by, so she can develop a better emotional reaction to strangers. Yeah. All right. Looks like we're good for today. No questions are coming in. I guess I answered them all. So thank you very much for joining us. Our in-person classes have resumed, and we also have virtual classes online as well. So looking forward to seeing you in class.